Racist cop exposed in court, hidden genius revealed, teen attorney's incredible life-changing win. Maya Thompson stood on the threshold of the courtroom, her heart pounding in sync with the echo of whispers swirling around her. Everyone knew her brother, Brian, a gentle giant with a helpful smile, a mechanic who always had a way of fixing things, including broken hearts. Yet here he was, accused of a crime he didn't commit, all thanks to Officer Merrick, a local legend infamous for his racial bias. A chill swept through Maya as she thought of the gravity of the situation. Could she, just a 17-year-old girl with no legal training, really fight this system? It all felt unreal. The small-town vibe, usually so comforting, now suffocated her. The baker, the florist, and the diner owner all shared nervous glances. Their loyalty clashed with a painful truth. People whispered about her family at every corner. She felt every stare like a flame on her skin, each one burned deeper, a reminder of everything they had endured as a single-parent household. Her mother worked 2 jobs just to keep their heads above water. Maya had learned to fight for what was right, but now she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Determined, she rallied her friends. "We can do this," she declared. "We need to show that Brian is innocent. We'll gather evidence." The energy in the room crackled with indignation as they set to work. The local library became their hub, late-night discussions fueled by pizza and soda. They talked to neighbors, gathered signatures, fueled by shared stories of injustice. They realized they weren't alone. But with each passing day, the friction at home grew. Her mother's eyes were filled with worry, words caught in her throat. "Maya, I know you want to fight, but what about our safety? What if things go wrong?" It hurt to see the fear etched on her mother's face, the struggle between ambition and the need for security. But Maya felt different. She was driven. She'd always admired perseverance, grabbing at every opportunity to rise above. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. Maya's voice trembled as she presented the evidence she had tirelessly gathered, her hands shaking but resolve hardening. "This cop has a history. He targeted my brother. We deserve justice." Gasps rippled through the room. Her heart raced. Could she really win this? Then came the officer's response. A cold smirk replaced his badge. "You think you can win with mere words, little girl?" He used his authority to push back, exposing the deep-rooted bias like a fissure in the community's facade. Frustration boiled in Maya's gut as she countered with what she had learned. Each question she posed felt like a lifeline. But fear shadowed her triumph. She felt the weight of her mother's worries, melting behind her confidence. Before she could catch her breath, the courtroom gavel poised itself, ready to silence everything. "I have one more piece of evidence," Maya breathed. Silence. Could this be enough to save her brother? Would the truth finally come to light? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She stepped forward, the room was breathless. There's more to this story. I found the footage. Each word hung heavy in the air. The eyes of the jury flickered, the unwarranted silence of the community weighed heavily. We can't ignore what happened. Just as Maya began to detail the explosive truth behind Officer Merrick's history, she saw her mother's fearful eyes. Could this be the spark that ignited a fire of change, or would it leave them as ash? In this moment of truth, everything stood at the edge. Would justice win, or would Maya's fight for her brother unravel the fabric of her family and expose the community's hidden biases? Maya held her breath as the courtroom seemed to lean in closer, each face a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. She could feel the weight of their eyes pulling at her, each gaze a test of her resolve. The footage, it felt like a lifeline thrown in the tumultuous sea of doubt. With trembling hands, she revealed the USB drive, the very source of her hope, and plugged it into the court's computer. The screen flickered to life, revealing shaky footage captured by a passerby on the day of Brian's arrest. Maya prayed that the grainy images would speak louder than words ever could. Gasps echoed around the room as Officer Merrick's harsh demeanor came into view, the way he shoved Brian against the patrol car. "This is the man who claims my brother was a threat." Maya's voice was stronger now. She pointed to the screen, her heart pounding as she called attention to the timestamp. "Look. Right before this, Brian was helping an elderly neighbor carry groceries. He was not a danger, he was a good son and a good member of this community." Gasps morphed into murmurs as the imagery sunk in. Maya's friends exchanged hopeful glances, their silent support enveloping her like a warm blanket. But she prayed it would be enough. She pressed on, her voice steady. "This isn't just about Brian. This is about every person who has been unfairly judged, every time you got pulled over when you didn't deserve it." Officer Merrick's face soured, shifting from smug confidence to an unmasked irritation. Maya could see the cracks in his armor, the cracks that revealed the fear of losing his grasp on power. "Your Honor," he barked, directing attention away from the video. "This footage is meaningless. It does not prove anything related to the charges against Brian." His words dripped with contempt, but the crowd was no longer buying it. Maya turned back to the jury, now fully engaged. "But it shows a pattern," she urged, desperation weaving through her words. "This isn't an isolated incident. Officer Merrick's history is riddled with complaints. I have the documents." She pulled out a file thick with evidence, feeling the nervous energy ripple through the courtroom as she spread it across the table. "This isn't just about what happened that day, it's about a system that's broken. We can't ignore the truth any longer." Silence blanketed the room, broken only by the rustling of papers. Each juror leaned forward. Maya sensed the shift, they were listening. Then, her mother, the one person who had always been her rock, shifted in her seat. Maya caught her eye, and for a brief moment, it felt like they were the only two people in the room, locked in a shared understanding. She saw pride and fear warring within her mother's gaze. As the gavel hit the wood, pounding with authority, Maya was left breathless. "Enough." The judge called, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "I will allow this evidence, but let us be clear, emotions must not sway facts. This court demands objectivity." Maya's heart sank for a moment, but the crack of hope sparked again. Maybe, just maybe, they were on the edge of something monumental. But as the courtroom buzzed back to life, Maya sensed something in the air, a tension that charged the atmosphere. She felt the heat of uncertainty settling in her stomach. What would happen when the truth collided with this outdated system? As Maya prepared to sit down, the judge cleared his throat. "We will recess for 20 minutes. They were getting a break, but in that moment, she realized the battle was far from over. What would she say next? How could she keep the momentum going? Maya stood her ground, determination sharpening her focus. In that moment, both fear and courage danced within her, something she never anticipated. Would it be enough to turn the tide in her brother's favor? The truth lay just ahead, but would it be enough to protect them all? The court recessed, but the air was thick with anticipation. Maya could hardly breathe. She sat back down, her heart racing as she felt the weight of so many eyes still on her. She glanced around the room, noting the subtle shifts in expression on both the jurors and the spectators. People whispered in hushed tones, sharing their thoughts. Hope flickered in some eyes, but skepticism remained etched on others. Maya turned to her mother, who looked both proud and anxious. "You did so well," her mother whispered, shoving a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The comforting words were more than just a boost, they were a lifeline. Maya nodded, mustering a small smile, trying to hide the torrent of emotions inside her. Fear battled her resolve, and the victory still seemed so far out of reach. As the judge wrapped up his notes, Maya flipped through the evidence files again, seeking more strength from the photographs and statements. Each piece painted a bigger picture, a story of injustice and inequality. But could she bring that story to life again? When court was called back into session, tension prickled in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. The judge settled back onto the bench, his expression unreadable, but Maya could feel the man's power radiating throughout the room. When he gestured for Officer Merrick to resume his defense, Maya held her breath. "Your Honor," Merrick's voice boomed, his confidence seemingly restored. "This entire charade is a desperate attempt to distort the situation. Yes, the footage exists, but context matters. I was responding to a situation that required immediate action to protect the public." Maya clenched her jaw. She could see the shifting narrative he was attempting to construct. He was spinning the thread back into his favor, but she wasn't about to let that happen. "Objection." Maya's voice rang clear, the room momentarily startled by her audacity. "With all due respect, Officer Merrick, you are the one undermining the very community you claim to protect. Your actions that day were anything but protective." The judge frowned slightly, surprised yet obviously intrigued by her passion. "Maya, you need to stay focused. This is my brother's life." She interrupted, not backing down. "It's bigger than all of us. Yes, there's a process, but the truth has to come first. Context here isn't just a story, it's a human being." Gasps filled the room again. She could feel the electricity of her outburst reverberating off the walls, and the atmosphere shifted once more. The jury was engaged, their eyes wide. Maya took a deep breath, willing herself to steady. "I want to ask Officer Merrick a simple question. What constitutes a threat in your eyes? Is it just the color of someone's skin? The differences in how someone appears? Because what I see in my brother," she paused, swallowing hard. "What I see is humanity." The silence following her words was deafening. Despite the heaviness hanging over the courtroom, there was a respect forming, a silent acknowledgement of her bravery. Officer Merrick's face twisted for a moment, revealing more than just irritation. There was an uncomfortable vulnerability peeking through. Maya's heart raced, and as she locked eyes with the jury, a wave of hope surged through her. "Does the truth really matter here?" she whispered almost to herself, knowing the answer lay in the hands of those who would decide her brother's fate. As the gavel sounded again, signaling the judge to return to his deliberations, Maya could feel change lingering just beyond her grasp. But would it be enough to rewrite her brother's story? The next moments felt crucial. She had to convince them, she just had to. Maya could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she watched Officer Merrick shift uncomfortably under the gaze of the jury. She remembered why she fought so hard for this moment. Her brother deserved justice. The air felt electric, each second stretching out as the judge adjusted his glasses and surveyed the room. The jury sat in silence, their expressions a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. Maya tried to read their faces, searching for a glimmer of understanding, something that would signal they believed her too. But doubt shadowed some of their eyes. "Let us be clear," Officer Merrick shouted, recovering some of his bravado. "I was trained to react quickly in dangerous situations. This is about protecting lives. My actions were justified." "Justified?" Maya's voice trembled, but she firmed up, refusing to back down. "And what about the life you took? Did you think of that? Was it justified to treat my brother like a criminal before giving him a chance? That day, your actions told a different story, one that screams injustice." The words hung in the air like uninvited guests, demanding to be acknowledged. For a brief moment, Maya saw a flicker of uncertainty cross Merrick's face, as if he realized he was losing his grip on the narrative he had spun. Maya turned to the jurors. "Please," she implored, her voice barely above a whisper yet potent enough to carry across the room. "This isn't just about my brother, it's about how we see ourselves, about the choices we make every day." She took a breath, her palms clammy against the binders. "It's about honesty. And truth. What kind of world do we want to live in? The courtroom was still, everyone leaning in, every breath held tight as if it might shatter the moment. She glanced quickly at her mother, whose eyes sparkled with tears, a mixture of pride and fear. Just as it seemed she had captured their focus, the door swung open with a loud creak. A figure stepped inside, making headway toward the courtroom. It was Jamie, her younger brother, clutching a crumpled piece of paper with his small fists. His eyes were wide, filled with a mix of confusion and determination as he caught sight of Maya. "Jamie!" Her mother gasped, standing up slightly. The judge, taken aback, interrupted, "Young boy, you cannot interrupt these proceedings." But Jamie was undeterred. "I have to say something," he shouted, his voice echoing off the walls. Maya's stomach dropped. What could he possibly say that wouldn't make things worse? She felt a wave of panic, but it quickly morphed into a swell of pride. Clenching her fists, she called out, "It's okay, let him speak." With the judge's hesitant nod, Jamie took a step up, his small stature somehow grander in this moment. "I don't want them to think my brother is a bad person," he said, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I know him. He's good. He helps people. He's not a threat." Maya felt the weight of the room shift. Occasionally, the smallest voice speaks the loudest truth. Jamie's innocent words reached past the fear and doubt plastered on many faces. The murmurs around the courtroom grew, shifting from skepticism to something else, empathy, perhaps, or even determination to understand. Maya felt hope pulse through her again, stronger this time. Could her brother's true story finally break through that wall? Could Jamie's plea shift the tide in their favor? Will they listen? She whispered inwardly, wishing desperately to know the answer. Across the room, the jury began scribbling notes, and Maya couldn't help but feel the tiniest flutter of optimism. The battle was far from over, and with each passing moment, hearts were still to be swayed, but there was a nagging sense that the outcome rested not just on evidence, but on the power of voices united against injustice. The gavel fell once more, and the judge's face showed a mixture of pity and curiosity. Maya's heart raced. What would he say next? "Court is adjourned for the day," the judge declared solemnly. As everyone began to stand, Maya felt the weight of uncertainty settle back in. What awaited them tomorrow? Would Jamie's words carry enough weight to tip the scales in their favor, or would it all dissolve into more unanswered questions? The lingering tension hung above them all, ready to erupt in further unpredictability. The next morning felt different, charged with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. As Maya entered the courtroom, she could see the jury already seated, their eyes darting around as if they were discussing the weight of what had transpired the previous day. Jamie was safely with their mother, whose grip on her son seemed unyielding. There was a flicker of determination in Maya's mind. She knew they couldn't back down now. The judge entered, and the gavel struck down, silencing the murmurs in an instant. Maya felt her heart race again, memories of Jamie's heartfelt plea circling through her mind like a mantra. She had to hold on to that moment. In a voice that betrayed none of her insecurities, she reminded herself why they were there, not just to fight for her brother, but for every voice that had been stifled by ignorance and hatred. Today, the judge began, scanning the room. "We continue with the testimonies." He looked pointedly at Officer Merrick. "You have the floor." Merrick stood slowly, the confidence that once rolled off him now seemed hesitant. The air buzzed with anticipation, and Maya leaned forward, tension knotting in her stomach. With a practiced professionalism, Merrick began detailing the events of that fateful day, emphasizing his training and the threats he faced. But with each word, there was an irritation growing in Maya's chest. How could he cling to this facade, knowing it was built on a foundation of lies? When it was her turn again, she stood with conviction. "Officer Merrick," she questioned, her voice strong, "how many times did you stop and think about who my brother was before deciding he was a threat?" Merrick stiffened. "I had to act fast, and in such situations, you can't afford to hesitate." "Don't you think," Maya pressed, her voice rising slightly with emotion, that it's exactly that mindset to see a young black man as a threat first that leads to tragic outcomes. You see uniforms, not people. Can you deny that? The courtroom held its breath, some jurors rigid, eyes wide. She could see the confusion flickering in some of them. It's not just about you, officer. It's about a system that perpetuates fear. Have you ever stopped to think that you might be the catalyst to someone's pain? Tears welled up as the words burst free. Or that your perception could destroy families. The courtroom was heavy with silence. For a split second, she sensed the gears turning in the jurors' minds. There was a murmur, a ripple of realization breaking as the truth hung in the air, tangible and raw. Maya turned, desperate to reach the hearts of the jury. I want you to see my brother for who he was, a caring person, not a suspect. This is bigger than us. It's a call to each of you, to question, to confront what you believe. A juror, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, leaned forward. What kind of man was he? Maya swallowed hard, seizing the opportunity. He was an honor student. He helped teach kids in the neighborhood. He dreamed of being an engineer. He had friends, a family who loved him. Maya's eyes glistened as she spoke. Would they finally understand? Could her brother's story break through the layers of conditioned belief? As Officer Merrick stumbled over his next response, Maya sensed the tide shifting. The jurors were listening, really listening. The judge called for a recess, and as the courtroom buzzed with speculation, Maya caught a glimpse of Jamie, who met her gaze with a bright spark of belief. But even as she felt a glimmer of hope, a question lingered over her heart: was it enough? Would the truth be enough to unlock the hearts of those in power? Tomorrow would bring a new layer to this battle, and the stakes felt higher than ever. She needed to find a way to speak not just for her brother, but for everyone fighting back against injustice. Could they finally tip the scales of justice, or would they be met with another wave of resistance? The suspense hung thick, ready to break with either hope or despair. The courtroom was alive with murmurs when they returned from recess. Maya's heart pounded in her chest as she took her seat. She could feel every pair of eyes in the room on her, a mix of scrutiny and curiosity, lingering on the recent revelations. The judge entered, and with another swift bang of the gavel, there was silence, a silence that felt like the calm before a storm. Mr. Merrick, please continue, the judge instructed, his tone steady and authoritative. Merrick shifted uncomfortably, his bravado fraying. I just reacted to what I thought was a threat, he said, but his voice lacked the certainty it had before. Maya itched to respond, but she restrained herself, giving him space to unravel his own narrative. The jury, too, seemed caught in a delicate unfolding, attention crackling in the air. Maya glanced at the jurors. They looked thoughtful, wrestling with something deeper than just the case at hand. This was no longer about the events of a single day, it was about the larger implications that hung thick like smoke. Officer, Maya called out, her voice cutting through the silence. Let us unpack that. What did you see that day? How did you feel the instant before you pulled your weapon? She leaned forward, her gaze piercing. What made you choose lethal force? Merrick faltered. I felt threatened. It was instinct, he stammered. So you acted on instinct? Maya pressed, her voice gaining strength. Isn't that what you tell people not to do when it comes to interpreting situations? To rely on evidence, not gut feelings. It begs the question, officer, what evidence did you have? He opened his mouth to answer but hesitated, his walls crumbling. It's just. It was fast. I didn't want to get hurt. His voice trailed off, and in that moment, the audience seemed to collectively gasp as realization hit. And what about Jamie? Maya shot back, her voice woven with intensity. Was he not deserving of the same consideration? Was his life less valuable than your fear? The courtroom felt electric. Some jurors shifted uncomfortably in their seats as they absorbed the weight of her words. Think of my brother. Maya continued, her emotions spilling over. You made a choice, a life-altering choice based on fear. The system taught you to see threats before seeing a person. Fear shouldn't dictate how someone lives or dies. We cannot allow this to repeat, can we? A few jurors looked down, the reality of her statement settling in. Maya could hear her heartbeat thunder as she watched their expressions shift. Frustration, sorrow, understanding, it was all there, a kaleidoscope of feelings shifting across faces that began to reflect the humanity her brother would fought to protect. For a moment, silence enveloped the room once more. The judge cleared his throat. "Let us take a brief recess," he declared, his voice steady but tinged with an unusual softness. As the jurors shuffled out, Maya felt a swell of hope rise within her. Could they really be understanding? A wave of fear washed over her just as quickly. The battle wasn't won. It was merely a small, but crucial step toward what lay ahead. She turned to see Jamie's little face peering anxiously from the back with their mother beside him. He didn't need to say a word, his expression spoke volumes. This journey was far from over, and Maya felt the weight of it settle on her shoulders. What if they still don't get it? She whispered to herself, panic bubbling up inside. What if none of this matters in the end? Just then, a familiar voice pulled her from those dark thoughts. Maya. It was her mentor, a seasoned attorney who had taught her the power of resilience. You did amazing today. Just keep pushing. Her heart soared a little, a tiny flame igniting against the fear that threatened to drown her. Every word mattered. They could inspire change. But there were more battles ahead, challenges waiting to rise. What other truths needed to break free? Would she be strong enough to weather the storm to come? The uncertainty lingered heavily as she stepped out of the courtroom, ready to face whatever came next. The sound of the gavel echoed in Maya's mind as she stepped outside the courtroom, the sunlight flooding her vision. It cast sharp contrasts between light and shadow, much like her emotions. Each breath she took tasted of hope, but underneath, panic bubbled like hot coals, a reminder of what was still at stake. Jamie ran up to her, his small hand gripping hers tightly. She could see the worry written on his young face, and her heart twisted. This wasn't just a courtroom drama. This was their life, their family, their fight for justice, lined with fear and uncertainty. Did you win? He asked, his voice trembling slightly, innocence clashing against the gravity of the situation. Maya knelt to meet his gaze. We're still fighting, kiddo. But what we did today, it mattered. It's about making sure his voice is heard. She gave him a reassuring smile, though inside, the doubt clawed at her. Were they really making a difference? As the jury returned, she breathed deeply, feeling the weight of all eyes on her again. As they all settled, the atmosphere shifted. The murmurs were quieter, a tension thick enough to slice. The judge resumed his seat, looking over the court with a measured gaze. We'll continue. Mr. Merrick, I suggest you clarify your statement. The jury needs to understand the full picture. Merrick was a man standing on a tightrope, and with each glance at Maya, it felt like he was swaying dangerously. I was under pressure, he muttered, almost to himself, as he glanced down at his feet. Maya seized the moment. Pressure can distort reality, officer. That's clear. But your role is to protect, to serve. She paused, breathing carefully as she continued, what would your instinct scream if it were your loved one in the line of fire? His fidgeting stilled momentarily, and for the first time, a flicker of unease crossed his face. Everyone deserves the benefit of the doubt, she pressed on, her voice a mixture of anger and compassion. You talk about instinct, but fear should never dictate life and death moments. The jury's reactions were subtle yet telling. They leaned in, their focus sharpening. Officer Merrick, Maya continued, let us be real here. You shaped the narrative of that day. You painted Jamie as a threat when he was just a kid. Did you even stop to see him at all? Merrick opened his mouth, but no words came out. For the first time, he looked vulnerable, even small in his own skin. Maya wasn't finished. Imagine a world where we could see each other fully, where we could recognize humanity before fear. Would that not lead to a safer community for everyone? Each word she spoke wrapped around the room like a warm blanket, molding the atmosphere with something raw and real. A few jurors nodded, while others seemed in deep thought, processing every detail of the battle they were witnessing. Someone in the back shifted, and Maya caught her mother's eye, filled with a mixture of pride and worry. Maya. Her mentor whispered from the side with urgency just before the judge's gavel echoed once more. You're not just fighting for Jamie now. You're fighting for every child out there who has been misunderstood. Her heart swelled, a flicker of newfound determination igniting inside. With every moment, she felt the essence of justice taking shape around her, urging her forward. As the judge called for another recess, she felt a surge of adrenaline. This battle wasn't over. There were more truths to unveil, and more voices that needed speaking. Could she bear the burden of this fight alone? Could anyone truly grasp the full depth of what lay ahead for Jamie and so many like him? The question loomed heavy. Just outside the courtroom, a news reporter was poised with a microphone, ready to catch her next move. Would her words not only resonate in the courtroom but outside these walls, echoing far beyond? Maya took a deep breath, ready for the next round. She realized then, this wasn't just about winning or losing, it was about changing the culture, rewriting narratives, and reclaiming lives. But could mere words shift the course of history? With the camera's lens trained on her, Maya stepped into the light, ready to face whatever came next. Maya stepped in front of the cameras, her heart beating like a drum. The brightness of the studio lights felt almost blinding, a stark contrast to the shadows that had loomed over her mind all day. She held Jamie's hand tightly, drawing strength from his presence. He was her anchor amidst the whirl of uncertainty. Maya. A reporter shouted, her voice slicing through the moment. What is your plan now that the recess has been called? Maya took a deep breath. We keep fighting, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. This isn't just about today. It's about creating a future where kids like Jamie can walk down the street without fear. The words flowed out almost instinctively, fueled by a blend of passion and desperation. As the cameras captured her every expression, she noticed a mix of emotions on the faces in the room. Hope, confusion, and, most importantly, intrigue. They were here for a story, but she hoped to deliver more a movement. Are you worried about backlash from the police community? Another reporter pressed, a hint of skepticism in their tone. Maya's jaw tightened. We should be more worried about the lives that are being affected by this narrative, she said, her voice gaining strength. Everyone deserves to be seen, to be held accountable, and to be heard. That's justice. She could feel Jamie squeeze her hand tighter, and it reminded her of why she was here. This was more than legal jargon or courtroom theatrics. It was about giving a voice to the vulnerable. Just as she prepared to speak again, her mentor stepped closer, his presence a solid reassurance. Maya, focus on the next witness. We need to prepare for what's coming. Maya glanced toward the doorway leading into the courtroom, her stomach nodding. Who is it? It's Mr. Benson, he replied, his brow furrowing. The bystander who recorded the incident. Is he going to speak for Jamie? The question hung in the air like a weight, it meant exposing the unfiltered truth. Possibly, her mentor said, glancing back at the courtroom. But we need to ensure he feels safe. The pressure will be immense. Maya felt a surge of empathy for Mr. Benson. The spotlight was heavy, and she hoped he understood the importance of his voice. Let us find him and reassure him he is not alone in this. As they approached the door, she felt a comforting buzz of energy surround her. This wasn't just her fight anymore, it was everyone's. Each step down the corridor pulsed with impending change. They needed to be ready. Whatever came next would shape their journey. When they found Mr. Benson, he leaned against the wall, shoulders slumped, staring down at the floor. He looked up as they approached, his eyes wary. I'm not sure I want to testify. What if they turn things around on me? Maya stepped forward, her heart aching for his uncertainty. But your voice matters. You saw what happened that day, and it's crucial. It can change everything. You're not just testifying for Jamie, but for every voice muted by fear. His gaze softened as her words sank in. But what if I get attacked? By the media or the police? Sometimes the truth is the hardest thing to speak, but it's the only way we can push for real change. And you won't be alone. I promise. As he nodded slowly, Maya felt a wave of determination wash over her. There was hope in his eyes. There was strength in unity. Just then, a commotion erupted from the courtroom. Coupled with Jamie's grip tightening, the urgency of the moment flooded back. A new challenge was here, and it wasn't he going to wait. With a shared glance of solidarity, they prepared to face whatever awaited them next. But deep down, Maya sensed the pivotal moment was approaching, the kind that tested their resolve as they stood for justice. What would happen when the jury heard Mr. Benson's truth? Would it tip the scales in their favor? As they stepped back into the courtroom, anticipation crackled in the air like static electricity. They were ready to embrace the knowledge that could change everything. Would this be a turning point in their fight? Maya felt the tension creep through her bones as they walked into the courtroom. The atmosphere was electric, fraught with anticipation. Every gaze felt like it was piercing through the air, ready to dissect every word spoken, every emotion displayed. As she approached the witness stand, she caught a glimpse of Jamie's face, his wide eyes locked on hers, filled with hope and trust. The weight of what was about to happen pressed heavily on her shoulders. This was not just her moment. It was a collective stand for justice, a fight that mirrored the struggles of so many. Mr. Benson took his place at the stand, a flicker of fear flashing across his eyes as the weight of the courtroom settled on him. Maya stepped beside him and spoke softly, "You've got this. Just tell your story." She wanted him to know he was not alone, to remind him that truth was his shield. The lawyer for the prosecution stood up, a smug smirk curling at the edges of his mouth. "Mr. Benson," he began, his tone dripping with condescension. "You claim to have witnessed the incident. But can you truly say your video accurately captures what happened?" With each word, Maya felt her heart race. This was at the moment when they would either stand strong or let doubt seep in. Mr. Benson drew in a deep breath, his gaze steadying on the jury. "What I saw on that day was wrong. The video is the truth." Maya watched him transform before her eyes. His voice, once shaky, now rang with conviction. "I saw a child terrified, a police officer abusing his power. I can't stay silent about that." The jury seemed to lean in, captivated. She felt the energy shift in the room. But the prosecutor wasn't done. "You're just an average bystander. What makes you think your opinion holds more weight than an officer's long-standing record of service?" Maya clenched her fists, her heart slamming in her chest. The narrative was trying to twist back to the same old story, and they had to fight back. Because the truth is not measured by badges or years of service. It's measured in humanity. Her words echoed in the silence, resonating with the jurors. The glances shared among them began to shift. She could almost see the gears turning. Mr. Benson continued, his voice now bold. "All I did was record what you don't see. What you ignore. I'm tired of seeing people like Jamie suffer while we pretend everything is fine. It's not." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Jamie, sitting behind her, was silently thanking Mr. Benson with an earnest nod. Just then, a soft murmur swept through the gallery. Faces once tight with skepticism began to soften, some nodding along with Mr. Benson's revelations. But as the prosecutor gathered himself for a final attempt, Maya sensed a shift. "So you decide to judge a whole community based on one incident? How naive of you to think that change starts with a single video." The fire within Maya ignited. No, it starts with one brave person willing to step forward and say, enough. She turned to Mr. Benson, catching his eye. You are braver than any badge. You see, this is a turning point. It's not just about what happened, it's about everything that needs to change. Will you join us, Mr. Benson? There was a beat of silence, heavy with the looming weight of his decision. Would he step further into the light for the sake of justice? As she waited, her heart pounded, the room holding its breath. She knew whatever Mr. Benson chose would either lead to liberation or silence. Her stomach churned with a mix of hope and fear. Could they really change minds today? In that moment, the future felt uncertain yet tantalizingly close. What path would Mr. Benson choose? Would courage awaken in him, igniting a flame that could light the way for many? Mr. Benson took a deep breath, his eyes full of determination. I'm with you, he declared, his voice resonating throughout the courtroom. Maya felt joy surge within her. It was a moment of shared responsibility, solidarity bonded by the truth. The jurors reacted, some visibly moved, exchanging knowing glances as if they understood the weight of what was unfolding. Witnesses may be few, Mr. Benson continued, but together we can ensure that the past doesn't define us. We must stand for what is right. The air shifted, there was a palpable empathy enveloping the courtroom. No longer was it just a case about her brother, it was about every child impacted by fear and bias. Maya could see the realization settling upon the jurors as they absorbed Mr. Benson's words. Your Honor, the prosecutor interjected, his tone now more defensive, this is merely emotional rhetoric. We still don't have hard evidence linking Officer Merrick to intentional malice. True, Maya countered, her heart pounding with urgency, but we also can't ignore the systemic issues. It's these very biases that skew perceptions. The metrics of justice can no longer rely on outdated beliefs. Gasps echoed around the courtroom as she made her case. Just then, the judge raised his hand to call for order, his eyes narrowing, yet curious, absorbing every new layer to this fight. Mr. Benson's video might show a snapshot, he said slowly, but I see a larger, social picture being painted here. Maya's heart swelled with hope. Could the judge actually be seeing beyond the legal statistics? The jury's focus sharpened. They were absorbing the implications, processing the weight of collective injustice. Maya turned to her mother and Jamie, who were both leaning forward, anticipation etched on their faces. Let us not forget, Maya pressed on, pulling back the strands of doubt. This trial isn't solely about proving Officer Merrick right or wrong. It's about recognizing that each of us holds responsibility. We are all part of this, whether we see it or not. The hum of agreement rippled through the gallery. Maya's voice gained strength. Each testimony carries the potential to rewrite narratives, images and roles we've been conditioned to accept, regardless of the truth. This moment is a mirror reflecting what we so often ignore. She could sense the retreat of skepticism from the jurors, as if her words were breaking through walls they didn't even know were there. Then the judge announced, "We will recess for 5 minutes while the jury discusses their impressions. I urge everyone to reflect on their roles in this story." Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her but also a deep sense of yearning. It was not over yet. As the jurors walked out, she could see whispers and reverberations of thoughts, their minds churning like stormy seas. Turning to Jamie, she knelt down, lacing her fingers through his. "I'm so proud of you," she said earnestly, tears of gratitude welling in her eyes. "You believed when it was hard, and now, we're showing everyone that honesty creates courage. Do you think they'll understand?" He whispered, hope shining in his young eyes. "I believe they will." Her heart pulsed with faith. It's not just us speaking now. This moment embraces everyone who has faced injustice. As the jury filed back in, the emotional weight felt heavier but also lighter, as if something had shifted, the atmosphere now vibrant with hope. The judge settled back into his seat, and the gavel struck decisively. "Court is back in session," he announced, his tone indicating a change in tempo. "Jury, are you ready to deliver your insights?" Maya nodded towards Jamie, feeling resolute. No longer was she just fighting for her brother, this fight rippled out, touching hearts everywhere. The jury murmured amongst themselves, then the foreperson rose to speak. "We have reached a decision," she declared, her face somber but firm. "We cannot ignore the patterns of injustice testimony revealed during this trial. We hold that the actions taken by Officer Merrick were disproportionate and did not reflect a fair response." Maya's heart raced, their voices united, finally crafting a truth. "We declare Brian Thompson innocent of all charges." The proclamation rang out, a resounding pulse through the courtroom. Cheers erupted. A tide of people surged with joy, and tears streamed down her mother's cheeks. Maya felt a radiant smile bloom on her face as she embraced Jamie. They had done it. Together, their voices woven through understanding, strength, and a hitch of defiance, had created a booming ripple effect. As the news flashed across screens later, highlighting the trial's outcome and the community's unwavering support, a fire ignited within her. Injustice wouldn't be buried, it would only stir the fight further. This was just one battle, but Maya understood now she was ready to stand for the many stories still waiting to be told. As they left the courtroom, sunlight greeted them, giving warmth to their resolve. "Let us keep going," she whispered to Jamie, knowing their journey had only just begun. And as they walked into the future, Maya felt empowered, ready to face the challenges ahead together. This is where we draw the curtain on this powerful story. Yet, the quest for justice continues, and you have a role to play. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss transformative stories like this one. Leave a like now to show that you stand against injustice and support our channel's message. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this huge moment. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this message and understand the power of unity. Don't wait not even one more second, your action today can help inspire others.